So, should we dive into this week's topic?
Let's do it.
This should be this should be fun. I actually was looking at the list, and I think there's going to be some debate here. I think should I go first?
I was wondering how you wanted to structure this. Like, did you want to alternate, like we both did our fifth, and then work our way up to one, or do you want to do your five and my five?
Yeah, let's alternate. All right, we're going to alternate the top five NBA point guards of all time. That is the topic, correct?
That's good. I
The,
hope so.
the footnote here is that Nick did not want to go for like the last 10 or 20 years. He wanted to go for all time, even though we haven't seen half of these players play. But
Yep.
Obviously, we're going to use some statistics and just what everyone else tells us, online, that clearly these players were great. Is that correct?
Yeah, you just trust the internet, as always.
Trust the
That's
internet.
The key. That's the key to life. That's the key to everything. Just
All
trust the
right.
internet.
I will go first. Number five, greatest, number five all-time point guard. I have selected a player here that won 2 rings and averaged about 19 points and 9 assists a game. From the
I think I know who
bad
you
boy
picked.
Detroit Pistons, I have selected Isaiah Thomas. What do you think, Nick?
Do I tell you where I put him, or do I just say yay or no? He's on my list, but he's not number five. I'll tell you what.
Who's number five?
Number five for me was John Stockton. So, all-time assist leader and steal leader, and potentially could hold those records for a very long period of time. Scoring is a little bit down, but I think it's an error thing. The reason why I guess he's top five for me is he embodies everything you want out of a point guard, but then why isn't he higher? One, not winning a title was one factor, but two, it's quite underrated. Him and Karl Malone, this is a hot take, just to get it going. Karl Malone's all-time scoring leader, he's all-time assist leader. They were clearly a very powerful duo. So they're effective. They're all-time greats. But there are people above this list that played with a variety of different people or did a variety of things that I think make them more versatile and therefore more deserving of a top 4 position.
Okay. Well, we'll give you that. I have John Stockton on my list too. Clearly not at number 5 though. Should I go into number 4?
Yeah, just go straight to number 4.
Number 4. Well, here's the point. I think I chose IT. I looked at the names on my list. Hold on, let me bring that up. Okay, so let's be clear. At number 5, I had a few cuts that I had to really consider. Yeah, and I looked at players like Tony Parker. I really wanted to consider Tony Parker somewhere. Steve Nash. He's playing your 5. Is that correct, Mr. Suns? Yeah, but Steve
No,
Nash.
this is objective.
Steve Nash. So he did not make the cut. Let's be clear. This player did not make the cut. Steve Nash did not make the cut.
He's top 10.
AI. He's up there, but J Kidd, CP3, he's still going, obviously. Jerry West, not like I ever saw Jerry West play, right? But he's the logo, and he was, he was a good player from all respects that I understood, but obviously he was not there. And also I wanted to pick Penny Hardaway somewhere in the top 5, but that would make no sense because that would be just Lando bias, right? So IT definitely, he won a few rings. He was the leader of the bad boys there. I think that's where he obviously slotted at number 5. And number 4, obviously I had a player here that Mr. Triple Double, right? Obviously averaged 25 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists a game. This was before Westbrook, obviously, came along, and he's now Mr. Triple Double 2.0. Oscar Robertson. This was a dynamic guard back in the day. I think he won 1 ring as well. It came from was it the ABA, I think, to the NBA, and just could do everything back then as a player. Obviously, 6'5". He was in a league back then that was dominated by like 7-footers. That they were the ones that made all the highlights and headlines and stuff like that. Definitely a player that I put there as number 4, the greatest point guard of all time.
He is not on my top 5. So
what? 25, 7, and 9 in a ring is not top 5. Okay, who's number 4, Nick?
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm actually going with Chris Paul on this one.
Sorry. Does he play for the Suns right now? Does he play for the Suns?
He does play for the Suns.
Has he won a ring? Has he won a ring?
I think if we have this conversation in 6 months, the answer will be yes.
Ooh.
I'll tell you what. We're looking good. Okay, so what was the logic of picking him? I think, you look at efficiency. I think efficiency is one of his biggest calling cards. So he's on track to probably finish second in assists, and top 5 in steals. I can't remember the exact numbers. His scoring is a little bit more potent than John Stockton. I think he does have a very good shot at getting a ring. But the other reason why I think he fits as the top 5 point guard is he makes other people around him better, and he's very efficient when he does so. So his assist to turnover ratio is quite phenomenal. He's had more 10 plus assist games with 0 turnovers than any other player, which is really what we're looking for in a point guard position, or at least a traditional point guard. And career record wise, if he's on a team, that team will do better than with him off it. And that is a good floor general.
Let me just you knew this was going to occur here when you selected CP3 at number 4. Let me just, so you just gave me the statistics there that obviously he's second on the all-time assist list or steals list. I think is moving up. Obviously, he's still playing.
He'll get there.
Yep, obviously to Stockton, correct? And
Yep.
he has yet to win a ring, but obviously you're predicting he will win one before he retires. That's a whole nother topic. But you've put him above John Stockton because let's finish this sentence. I put CP3 above John Stockton as the greatest point guard because
his versatility and body of work is more varied and therefore more indicative of his skills than John Stockton's. It's basically the same thing. Are you really good at making a certain dish? Is that because it's the only dish that you can make, or are you actually like a decent chef and can make a variety? With John Stockton, he has probably more assists to Karl Malone than the majority of players have in the NBA, in general. Right? I'm not sure. I'm wholeheartedly believe at least 50% of his 15,000 assists go to Karl Malone. It's not too if it works, so be it. But Chris Paul has proven that he can make a lot of different players good and relevant as well.
Let me make it clear though. I think you'll have to agree with this that the point guard position, if you're in the top 5, you do make your teammates around you better. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. As a point guard, that's literally your role, that you have to be able to amplify the players around you, to set them up, to run the sets, to get your offense going, so on and so forth. And clearly all 5 names that we're going to pick on this list do that in that capacity, including John Stockton, obviously, and CP3. But obviously that therefore sort of mitigates the statement that CP3 makes players better around him, because the other 4 names on this list all do as well.
Look, I get to reiterate, it's the fact that Chris Paul's done on a variety of teams, a variety of players. They even elevate certain people into, I guess, a realm that they maybe wouldn't have otherwise been in. You look at someone like DeAndre Jordan, who gets an $80 million contract from Dallas. It was from Dallas. That's not happening without someone like CP3. You look at someone like DeAndre Ayton, who was on bust territory, or at least, wasn't going to live up to the hype compared to Trey and Luka, and now is serviceable. Bismack Biyombo comes into the league after essentially dropping out of it. Seems very good. You can make a case and say that he was quite successful to Blake Griffin's, run. You had someone like David West.
You can see how I'm coming in and batting hard for John Stockton, because I have John Stockton on my list at number 3. John Stockton is on my list at number 3. Okay, and like I said before, CP3 is not on my top 5, and John Stockton is number 3 because he is, like you probably touched upon, the ultimate point guard that you would look for. And I think some things you got to consider here that I guess I obviously clearly believe would rate him above CP3 and obviously up to 3 on my list. 1, obviously he was the assist king. He still is the assist king until he isn't. All right, and that could be a very long time still potentially. He's a leader there in assists and steals, I believe, correct? All right, at the moment, and that's still valid even though he hasn't played for a long time. 2, he played in at Utah for his whole career. Okay, he played at Utah his whole career. So you can't really go, oh well, he went around and he was, bouncing here and there, and teams didn't want him, and so on and so forth. He's one of those few players like Kobe and Dirk and stuff like that had the I guess the mindset and the willingness, in all honesty, because at any point a player can choose to go somewhere else. It's a choice, you know, and he stayed in Utah. And the point here is that I guess it's the part where I can't see how you're putting CP3 above John Stockton, is that John Stockton was in the finals twice. He was in the finals twice, and he does not have a ring because of MJ. Simple as that. John Stockton does not have a ring because of MJ. Okay, but it was in the finals twice, and they came, you know, 2 games from that ring. Okay, CP3, all right, just made the finals. Okay, just made the finals. Okay, and look, if he gets there twice and again, you know, which maybe he'll get there this season. All right, then now he's matched the 2 finals box quota there for, you know, to match John Stockton, but he's not there yet. He's not there yet. Okay, if CP3 was to win a ring, okay, and make a second finals experience, you know, I'll think about it. I think it might move up a bit more, but right now, I also have John Stockton at number 3 for these reasons.
It's fair. I guess to counter it a little bit, you know, back then trades were pretty much the only way that most players moved around if they had any form of status. It just wasn't the culture back then to move teams, really. I know that Karl Malone did it right at the end of the career, but that was, you know, probably a fringe effort on ring chasing from big names that then became a bit more prominent later in that, you know, 2000s period. You know, you look at his career stats, etc. He played 18 years and he played 1,504 games to get the stats that he did. So, you know, that's sustained greatness. You could make a case. Well, there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons where he's got less than 9 assists per game. But he did actually have a very sharp peak. So he was averaging 14.5 for a period of 2 seasons, basically, and really racked up numbers. But the scoring isn't there. The shooting is fine, you know. And I think also you mentioned an interesting thing. You said the MJ factor. You have rewarded John Stockton for losing to MJ, but then you didn't really reward IT for winning against MJ in a sense. You can make a case and say it was rookie Michael Jordan, but you know, IT is still to come for me, but it's not number 3. My number 3 is Steph Curry. We're going away from the conventional mold of, I guess, what we've been talking about, which was assists and floor general. But I think you have to recognize that Steph Curry's probably put in a new era of player for at least 10 years minimum. You know, we're going to have a lot of shooting guards that want to shoot from about half court and, you know, really dictate what the other team does. Now, Trey Young's really the only one that comes to mind, and you do wonder if it's actually a talent limitation thing. So not only trying to inspire a certain brand of basketball, but if he is talented, that brand of basketball is all an exclusive club, you have to recognize that. He's 2 of 5 in the finals, hasn't got a finals MVP, and you can make that case. But you know, you look at the Warriors' success now, you look at the way the franchise is built. In another 10 years, once his career is wrapped up, it's not inconceivable to say they made the finals another 2-3 times, and he may have won a couple more as well.
Hey, look, guess what? We're going to agree. All right, I have Steph Curry at number 2. I have Steph Curry at number 2. That's how high I rate him. Okay, he's I definitely agree. He's changed the game of basketball, played for the better. And who knows, might have a 4-point line next, right? But he's got his rings. He ticks that box. He's probably more of a scoring guard versus a sort of a passing assist man in that sort of sense. But you know, the way he can play, the way he can win the 73 and 9, obviously sort of a season, that was besides 73 and 9 and no ring, obviously season was sort of the high point there. And look, I think again, you know, he's a point guard that, like I said, I've got number 2 on my list, so I'm not going to disagree with you having it at 3. So now I'm just more sort of, I can't wait to hear what's 2 for you, because you know, surely you're playing agreeing with me on 1. So who's 2?
Well, 2's Isaiah Thomas. So I guess the reason why I picked Isaiah Thomas is the Detroit Pistons are the anomaly team for almost 20 years, right? Lakers, Celtics, and Bulls really for a 20-year stretch. And so there's a blip for 2 years, and it's Detroit. And kudos to them, because it's not just a one-off, right? Where you get like the Mavs from 2011, where they just, it all fell together and they got it, and then it went back to kind of the dynasty stuff. They sustain it back to back, which is, also quite difficult to do. He did floor general that. Isaiah Thomas is not a tall man by any stretch. But averaged almost 20 and 10, shot, about 45% from the field. But the reason as well that I think he gets a bad rap is because his career was cut short. He retired at 32. He played 12 years. He put up all of those accolades in 12 years with the Achilles tendon tear. Back then, a bit of a career suicide thing. But he was still balling, and at the age of 32, he was still 15 and 7 and, doing what he needed to do. I just think considering that he technically did it over Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan had a lot of talent, there's all the narrative about him having to overcome Detroit, but, I think there's got to be some credit there due, because, he was a roadblock.
I'll give you that. I think the point, maybe the factor we haven't really touched upon here, why I didn't rate IT higher, okay, is Steph Curry changed the game of basketball. Okay, that's the reality. Okay, it's kids, now all shoot threes, and players shoot threes, and we shoot 40 threes a game or 50 threes a game or whatever now, and players take 10 threes individually because of Steph Curry. All right, that's I think a big factor there. I guess obviously John Stockton, again, sort of that passing sort of clearly John Stockton's known for his passing. I think same with Oscar Robertson. Clearly he won a ring. He obviously that sort of triple double all round sort of player. I think that's the part where IT doesn't necessarily stand out. Yes, he was a winner, and there's many winners. Okay, out there that have won rings and multiple rings, here and there. And IT was obviously, number 5 on my list, but he does not stand out in an area like that. Okay, and that's why he slid down my list and he's not number 2.
So it's interesting. I guess the way that we interpreted it is that you've went for perhaps, historical implications, whereas I think I went more of, if I had to assemble a team, who would the top 5 point guards be to have a role to fill? And I guess that's why he fell there. I guess IT may have influenced the tough guards, right? That like bruiser mentality, that like tough defense thing, because that wasn't as common beforehand. But it's also tricky, right? Because the NBA evolved a lot, it's 75th year currently. So, 30 years ago now, right? So, the way that the game's been played has just progressed. And I also think, before we get to number 1 as well, it probably is reason why Jerry West isn't going to get the credit. I just think there has to be recognition that players are more talented these days than they were 50 years ago, right? Like if you've ever seen that black and white footage that's out there, it's a bunch of dudes that dribble right-handed, and that's going left or right, and they shoot as if, they just kind of flinging it. And they run up and down, and
apples
then they
and oranges, right? Apples and
then they
oranges.
go to a second job, and then they go to a second job the day after, because that's just how the NBA works. So
number one, I feel we're going to agree here, right? We're going to agree. 19 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 5 rings, I believe. Mr. Showtime, right?
No, Steve Nash, man. What are you doing?
I'm gonna end this right now.
Of course.
I was like, yep. So Magic Johnson, correct? I looked at the potential names obviously out there, when I was sort of doing my research, and I was like, there's no one that's even close. In all honesty, there's no one that's even close. Yeah. Until say Steph Curry wins 5 rings, which I guess he could, or CP3 suddenly wins the next 5 in a row. All right, there's no one even close. And I think, I've seen a bit of his highlights clearly, there's a little bit of YouTube in color, and obviously he was the Showtime era. He obviously led the Lakers. He did everything as a guard there and did it with flair. And I think, and at the end of the day, I think we always talk about winning is a big component here. 5 rings as the lead point guard there, that sort of puts him, above the, everyone else at the moment as the all-time greatest point guard.
And did it 11 seasons as well. Obviously, with the HIV diagnosis, that kind of cut the career a lot shorter than we would have liked. And the Lakers in 1991 probably were at the end of the tether, but he also was around. Fun fact, he was around during the Shaq and Kobe era.
I
You know
wait
what I
for your
mean?
fun fake every week, all right?
Yeah. Just you pick things up. Like he was eligible to play and even did go to the training camp and sort of see if he could do it with the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, I think in '98. So that's he had. If he doesn't get that HIV diagnosis, he has a drastically different career, and it's an already excellent career. So it's kind of hard to argue against.
Well, so does that mean we actually agreed? Well, we agreed at 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. There you go.
Positioning, we can make the case. We didn't agree on any of the positioning besides one.
Yep, but 4 out of 5 players we
Yeah.
agreed. All right. I look
Yeah.
forward to next week shooting guards, right?